shit, yeah, they bread stank. Walk up in the club, dripping like I'm fresh paint. I can see through the facade like an...
What's going on, fight fans? It's another great day when you love MMA. Welcome back to Matty Fight Talk. UFC 292, it's going down at the TD Garden in Boston, August 19th. It's the next UFC pay-per-view event, and it's a huge one. The headlining fight on that bad boy, we got Aljamain, the Funk Master Sterling, taking on Sugar Sean O'Malley for the 135 Undisputed Championship, and I cannot wait for this fight. They say styles make matchups. Well, this is one hell of a matchup with two very different styles. You got the outstanding grappling with pretty funky dynamic striking of Aljamain Sterling, and you got the laser precision sniper rounds of Sugar Sean O'Malley. That guy throws bombs, and they are very technically sound, and he cracks very hard. The kid's very dynamic, throws a lot of spinning strikes as well. He's a very, very good striker. So this is going to be a very fun matchup to see which game plan gets implemented and who is the better fighter. It's the biggest question we've been asking. Now, Sugar Sean has a lot of hype behind him. He's coming off of a massive win over Petr Yan. This will be his first title fight, so I don't know if that's going to weigh in. You know what I mean? I don't know if he's seen too many 5-round fights. It will be very interesting to see how he performs in this, being his first title fight, being his first 5-round fight. I believe this is his first 5-round fight. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But he's taking on a very, very good grappler, good wrestler, good ground and pound, good jiu-jitsu. Aljamain Sterling is definitely a guy you do not want to have on your back. Now, if we're going off of these guys' last fights, you're talking about Aljo here. Is 23-3, has been defending the belt. He's on a 9-fight win streak. Four of his last fights are title fights. He took on Henry Cejudo, who is one of the best champions the UFC has ever had. One of the most decorated champions. I mean, he didn't have so many title defenses, but he won 2 belts in 2 different weight classes. He was an absolute monster, Olympic wrestler. And Aljamain handled that. He did a great job in there. Granted that, Henry Cejudo hasn't fought in a while. Henry looked good, but he couldn't handle the pressure of Aljamain and the takedown ability of Aljamain. Now, Sean O'Malley needs to stuff these takedowns. I think that goes without saying. Sean O'Malley needs to keep this fight standing. If he does, how does the striking go? Because Aljo has very underrated striking. I mean, people love to hate on that guy, but you got to remember, dude, he's on a 9-fight win streak. He's the champion, and he was whooping ass up until this point. So Sean O'Malley needs to defend the takedowns. From what I hear from people who train with this guy, is he has really good jiu-jitsu. He actually is very good on the ground, but he does what people love. He stands up and he bangs. Aljo, I'm curious to see if he's going to be able, what happens if his takedowns get stuffed. Is he going to get picked apart by Sean? Because Sean, to me, is just the best striker there is. We saw what he did to Petr Yan. Now, with that being said, we also saw that Yan was able to take down O'Malley and hold him down. Yan ended up losing that fight, but I think if Sterling gets O'Malley to the mat, it's going to be a very, very, very long night for Sean O'Malley. Now, striking-wise, Sean O'Malley lands 7.43 significant strikes per minute. That's a very high value, whereas Aljo lands 4.78, which isn't too bad. Now, the significant strike percentage, 60% for O'Malley, very accurate, versus 52% for Sterling. Sterling lands big shots, but he doesn't land them as often as O'Malley does. Now, defensively, Sugar Sean is a 62%, Aljo is 58%. These guys aren't too bad standing up. Grappling is where you see the biggest difference. Aljo averages 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. Now think about that, 2 takedowns per 15. When he gets you down, he's holding you down. His takedown accuracy isn't the best though, surprisingly. It's 24%, whereas Sean O'Malley has a 0.45 takedown per 15, but he lands a 42%. I don't think he's going to go for a takedown in this fight because that'd be absolutely insane. His takedown defense is 60% though, so he has very sound takedown defense. My prediction for this fight, plain and simple, it really comes down to can O'Malley defend the takedowns, and judging off of how he fought Yan, I don't think so. If the fight's standing, O'Malley's in it and he'll be able to win. But I think over 5 rounds, he has no chance of winning this fight. I think if Aljo can get him down early and establish dominance early, it's going to be a very long night for Sean O'Malley. I think Sean O'Malley, I haven't seen his gas tank. I think he will be prepared for 5 rounds, but I think he gets submitted in 4. I got Aljamain Sterling winning this fight with a 4th round submission. I think he systematically breaks down O'Malley. He's going to be able to get inside. I think it's going to be hard for O'Malley to stuff the takedowns of Aljo. But I wouldn't put it past Sean to land something crazy, like an up elbow, a flying knee, when this guy's coming in for the takedown, a nasty uppercut. But I just see Aljo being the champion he is, being as well prepared as he has been in his last fights. this fight doesn't go the distance. I got Aljo winning this fight by a 4th round submission. Now we move further down the fight card to the co-main event. You got Zhang Weili taking on Amanda Lemos. You got 23-3 Weili taking on 13-2-1 Lemos. To me, this fight is a bad mismatch. I mean, judging off of what Andrade did to her, did to Lemos, and put her in a standing triangle and tapped her out pretty quickly. I mean, I don't want to hate on this chick because she is on a 2-fight win streak, but I just don't see her, dominating this fight against a person who is as well-rounded as Weili. Weili is so good at everything. That chick is an absolute monster, and Weili is also on a 2-fight win streak. But the women's division is very interesting. The MMA math for that doesn't ever add up. These ladies all lose to each other. Like, Weili has dominated everybody else, but she's lost to Rose Namajunas twice. One by vicious knockout, one by a decision. Lemos, she's beaten some good girls, and then she's also lost to some really good girls. So it's very confusing on to who to pick on this fight. But I will say the skill set, the wrestling, the grappling, and the striking of Weili, to me, is leaps and bounds above Amanda Lemos. You got strikes landed per minute. You got Zhang Weili at 5.79, Amanda Lemos 4.51 for significant strikes landed per minute. Now, the percentage of that, Lemos is a lot more accurate, 57%, whereas Weili is 47%. Absorb per minute, Weili eats a lot of shots, but that girl's got an iron face. She eats 4.6 per minute, whereas Lemos eats 3.97. And defensively, you got Weili with a 53% defense, whereas Lemos has 50% defense. So I think Weili's going to land the bigger shots. She eats shots to give shots, but hers hurt more, if that makes sense. Now, takedowns. You got Weili with 1.97 per 15, where Lemos has 1.1 per 15. Takedown accuracy, 34% for Weili, 55% for Lemos. Takedown defense, Lemos has an 81% takedown defense, whereas Weili has 66%. This is going to be an interesting fight. Before I actually looked at the stats, I kind of was leaning heavily towards Weili. Lemos has good stats, but I think Weili's fought better competition. So her stats get thrown off a little bit. And regardless of these stats, I still think that Weili is going to dominate this fight. I don't think it's going to be easy to take Lemos down, but I think she's going to shoot often. She's going to mix her strikes in well, which she's been doing over the last couple fights. I don't see Lemos being able to put away Weili. I mean, if it turns into a grappling match, Lemos definitely has a chance to submit her, but I just don't see that happening. I got Zhang Weili winning this fight by a 3rd round knockout. I think she starts going for takedowns. Lemos is going to defend well. It's going to turn into a stand-up fight where I think Weili will have the advantage. I think she's going to land the harder, the bigger, and the more dangerous, dominating shot. So I got Zhang Weili winning this fight by a 3rd round knockout. As we move down the fight card, we got Marlon Chito Vera, number 6, taking on number 10, Pedro Munhoz. This is a very interesting matchup because Pedro Munhoz, he's been up and down. He's had good fights. He's had bad fights. He's 20-7 right now. He's 2-2-1 in his last 5, but he did last defeat Chris Gutierrez by a unanimous decision, so he did have a nice bounce-back victory. And that fight against Sean O'Malley, there was an eye poke or whatever you wanted to call it, ended up ending that fight in a DQ. It would have been very interesting to see where that fight would have went because it did look good for Pedro Munhoz early on. Now, Chito Vera, on the other hand, 28-1. The guy's got 8 knockouts, 8 submissions, very diverse in his attack. Last loss to Corey Sandhagen, but before that was on a 4-fight win streak. So Chito Vera needs to have a bounce-back victory. He needs to come back and show that he is a top contender in that division, and he has all the abilities in the world to do so. When he fought Sandhagen, he was just starting way too slow. I mean, it was a very close fight, but he needs to put the pressure on, and he needs to fight with a little bit more urgency. The waiting it out game, it doesn't really help him, and the fact that this is a 3-round fight, that's going to favor Vera. It's going to push him to go sooner and often. Now, Pedro Munhoz is kind of in the same boat. He's turned into more of a defensive counter striker. I mean, these guys kind of are too laid back in their fights. Munhoz packs some power and he's a good grappler, but I think Vera is more dangerous than Pedro Munhoz is. I think Marlon's going to get the victory in this one. I think this fight's going to go 3 rounds because I do know that Pedro's very durable. He has very good defense, but I think he's going to eat shots. Vera's big. He's long. He's going to do some serious damage from the outside. I mean, the reach advantage is 70.5 inches for Vera to 64.5 for Pedro Munhoz. And I think that's going to play a big part in Vera using his jab and his front kick and keeping Pedro on the outside. Now, if Munhoz can pressure him, get some takedowns, and keep Vera on the ground on his back, that'll make a big difference. And Pedro's probably going to try and do that. I think it's going to be a very close decision. But I'm going to take Vera winning this fight. I think he's going to win by, a UD or a majority win. majority decision, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, you can lock that in. I'm going to take Marlon Vera, get him back in the win column, get him back into contention, and moving up the rankings against a very tough Pedro Munhoz. Now we move a little bit further down the fight card. We got number 8 Geoff Neal taking on number 13 Ian Garry. This is probably my favorite fight on the card besides Aljo and OMalley. There's a lot of good fights in this card, but this is one that really catches my eye. You got the 15-5 Geoff Neal taking on the 12-0, the undefeated Ian Garry. Now, there's a big height discrepancy. It's 6'3 versus 5'11, but the reach really isn't that big of a difference. Garry has a 74.5 reach where Geoff has a 75, so he might have the height advantage, but he's definitely not going to have the reach advantage. Geoff Neal's 2-3 in his last 5, and he last fought Shavkat Rakhmonov, who also has a pretty big height advantage in that fight and is a very dangerous striker, super good finisher. He's never been the distance in a fight, and Geoff handled himself very well. Showed some holes in Shavkat's game. Although he ended up losing and getting submitted in that fight late in the 3rd round, Geoff's a beast, bro. To take on a guy like that who is absolutely feared in that division, not many guys want to fight Shavkat right now. And Shavkat's possibly the next champion in my eyes. I think he definitely has the ability to be the next champion. Geoff Neal showed a lot in that fight. I'm a big fan of him. I really like his fight style. And Geoff Neal also has a win over a very tough Bilal Muhammad, who is right at the top, in title contention. Geoff's fought the best of the best. So Ian Garry is going to be in for a long night if he can't get it going. Now, Ian Garry, on the other hand, is 12-0, 7 KOs, 1 submission, 4 first-round finishes. And he last fought D-Rod, where he absolutely knocked him the fuck out in a first-round finish. So Ian Garry's no joke, man. The guy seems to level up every fight. And I like that these younger guys are taking bigger names sooner and faster. Geoff Neal's a huge opponent for somebody like Ian Garry. 12-0. If you go in there and you put on a performance and you get a finish over somebody like Geoff Neal, that says a lot about you. That's really impressive. Now, the striking, Geoff Neal lands 5.22 significant strikes per minute, whereas Ian Garry lands 6.85. That's a big difference there. 50% of the strikes land for Neal, where 55% of the strikes land for Garry. Absorbed per minute, this is where it's going to be a problem if this is a stand-up fight. You got 5.6 absorbed significant strikes per minute for Geoff Neal, where Ian Garry has 4.9. Now, the defense, although he eats some shots, he has a 58% defense, Geoff Neal does, where Ian Garry has a 53% defense. So the striking is going to be very interesting to see what happens. We all know Geoff Neal's a very sound boxer, very good defensively, and has very nice striking. We saw what he did to Vicente Luque. So if he gets his engine going early in this fight and he starts tagging up Ian Garry, finds his range and keeps Ian, guessing what's going on, could be an interesting matchup. Now, takedowns, Geoff Neal is, honestly, he's better in that department as well. He has 0.51 takedowns per 15, where Garry has 0.29. Let's be honest, these guys are boxers, they're strikers, they like to stand and bang. Now, the takedown accuracy is 44% for Neal, 50% for Garry. The takedown defense, 87% for Neal and 63% for Garry. Now, I will say this. If this fight stands and Geoff Neal starts tagging Garry and he goes for a takedown, that's where that percentage comes in. He's going to have a hard time getting Neal to the canvas. And then if it stays standing and you're already getting tagged up, it's going to be an even longer night. So as far as my prediction goes, I'm going to take Geoff Neal winning this fight. I think it's going to be a 3-round decision for Geoff Neal. I think this fight goes the distance. These guys are going to be very touchy-feely in the first round, and they're going to have a slow start. But when it picks up, they're going to start trading, and there's going to be a lot of action in this fight. I just see that Geoff Neal is the more experienced veteran. He has the tougher fights over his career. Ian Garry has not fought somebody like Geoff Neal yet. He has no idea what he's in for. I think he's going to be 12-1 after this fight, and he's going to learn a lot. He's going to learn, that you can't win everything. So I got Geoff Neal winning a decision. Now we move to what I believe is the main card opener. It's Cody Garbrandt taking on Mario Bautista, and this is going down in bantamweight. Cody Garbrandt's 13-5, Bautista's 12-2. This is a very good matchup. This is going to be a tough fight. I mean, I don't know who I want to really go for here. You got Cody Garbrandt 2-3 in his last 5, and he last had a unanimous decision over Trevin Jones. And then you got Bautista, who's on a 4-fight win streak, and his last 3 wins are by submission. Now, if you take a look at the grappling stats here, takedowns per 15, Bautista has 2.91, whereas Garbrandt has 1.1. And then the takedown accuracy, 68% for Bautista, 34% for Garbrandt. We all know Garbrandt's a boxer. Takedown defense, though, Garbrandt comes from a good camp of wrestlers, 78% takedown defense. And submission average 1.3 per 15 for Bautista. So this is going to be very telling to see what happens here. I mean, I think you can kind of see what's going to happen. Styles make matchups. You got a grappler versus a striker. And Bautista is going to be shooting the entire time. I think he's going to end up taking Cody Garbrandt down and making this a long night. Now, if Cody fights how he fought against Trevin Jones, I don't see him winning this fight. He needs to let his hands go. He needs to be dynamic. He's going to be defending takedowns often, but those are where, you know, those sneaky counters can come in, and that's where Garbrandt has a lot of success. When these guys are clinching, if he stuffs a takedown on the break, he lands a nasty counter, he could hurt Bautista. I just don't see that happening. I think Bautista's going to put the pressure on. He's going to have good defense, and I think he gets Cody Garbrandt to the mat and submits him early in this fight. I'd say a second-round submission for Mario Bautista. And I hate to say that because I like Cody Garbrandt, but he hasn't been fighting the same as before he was knocked out by Dillashaw. After that, he really turned into a loose cannon. You know, he's either hit or miss. He either drops you and knocks you out, or he loses the fight. So I'm going with Mario Bautista in this one. Now, the prelim, that's my main card predictions, but the prelims has some crazy fights. I mean, Chris Weidman making his return against Brad Tavares. That's going to be one hell of a fight. Very curious to see how Chris Weidman comes back after a nasty leg injury that he suffered against Uriah Hall. Brad Tavares, I mean, I would be kicking the fuck out of that leg if I was him. You also got Andre Petrosky taking on Gerald Meerschaert, Andrea Lee versus Natalie Silva, Gregory Rodriguez versus Dennis Tulilin. I don't even know how to say his name. But yeah, there's a bunch of crazy fights on the prelims. Don't miss this, guys. It's August 19th, 7 p.m. Hit me in the comments. Let me know who you guys have winning between Sean O'Malley and Sterling. I'm very curious to see your guys' opinion on that. Hit me with the like. Hit me with the subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Haters talking shit, yeah, they breath stank. Walk up in the club dripping like I'm fresh paint. I can see through the facade like an